Hi, we're reading the story. We're on page 131. We're talking about Samuel. And we had just finished talking about Hannah and how the Lord had blessed her with 3 more sons and 2 daughters, and how Samuel grew up in the presence of the Lord. I remember one, because I remember I was on my soapbox. Is that what it was?
Yes, the mama soapbox.
Last time I remembered something about, it was the Lord who brought up Samuel, who raised Samuel, and well, I'll just leave it there. That this is different. Like, this is one example that's different from all the rest. And this is a picture of Jesus and not a picture of the fact that we should send our children to be raised by other people, because Eli didn't raise Samuel. And when we send our kids to a school, we're giving other people the responsibility to raise them up. And we say, oh no, but they're spending 8 hours of the day with other people, and that's if they just do school. What if they do sports? Then there was some other teacher. And so anyway, I'm gonna step off that soapbox again because I was on it the last time, and we're not gonna get through if I keep on. But anyway, okay, so the boy Samuel ministered before the Lord under Eli. In those days, the word of the Lord was rare. There were not many visions. I wonder why that was. I wonder if that's because Eli was raising his boys, or had raised his boys, not to love the Lord. I'm wondering if his heart had drifted. Eli's. One night, Eli, whose eyes were becoming so weak that he could barely see, was lying down in his usual place. And that reminds me of Moses, because Moses' eyes did not grow dim and did not grow weak, but Moses always did what?
He followed the Lord.
He always walked closely with the Lord. He said, Lord, if you're not going there, I don't want to go. Here, we can see evidence that Eli's heart, we can't be sure because we don't judge hearts, but we can see that his eyes have become weak, which is a contrast with Moses. And we know that his sons were not walking with the Lord. He did not raise his sons to love the Lord. And Samuel was not raised by Eli, that the Lord did. So the lamp of God had not gone out yet. Eli was laying down in his usual place. Samuel was laying down in the house of the Lord where the ark of God was. That's interesting, that wording there. Eli was laying down in his usual place. What does that mean?
That he doesn't sleep.
He's laying in his place of habit. Remember, habits form character. And
you're good at noticing this stuff. I just skim right over.
Habits help form character, but lying down in his usual place, and listen to the contrast with what it says about Samuel. Eli was laying down in his usual place. Samuel was laying down in the house of the Lord. 2 different places. Samuel lying in the house of the Lord, Eli laying down in his usual place where his eyes have grown dim and where his sons no longer are because his sons have gone away from the Lord.
Yeah.
I think we see some contrast there.
I do.
Samuel was lying down in the house of the Lord where the ark of God was. Then the Lord called Samuel. So Samuel's in the house of the Lord, and the Lord calls Samuel.
At night.
He doesn't call Eli. He calls Samuel. Samuel answered, "Here I am." And he ran to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me." But Eli said, "I did not call. Go back and lie down." So Samuel went and lay down. So wherever this place is, Eli's place is outside of the house of the Lord, whereas Samuel's place to lie is inside the house of the Lord. So Eli habitually rests himself where?
Away from the Lord.
Away from God. Samuel's habitual place to lie down is in the presence of God, or in the house of the Lord, where the Lord would be found. And when the Lord calls Samuel, he has to go find Eli and say, "Here I am." And Eli instructs him to go back and lie down in his place. It's like they're separated. Samuel's over here in the house of the Lord. Eli is somewhere else, not in the house of the Lord. Again, the Lord called, "Samuel." Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me?" "My son," Eli said, "I did not call. Go back and lie down." Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord. So even though the Lord had been with Samuel and growing Samuel, Samuel did not know him yet. That's interesting.
Like he didn't know who he was.
Didn't know, and that's interesting too, because how can you not know if you're in the temple of the Lord with the priest? Who should be telling you about the Lord?
I mean, like when you walk
Who should be telling you about the Lord?
the priest.
The priest. What does that say about Eli?
He's not very godly.
That he's not walking closely with the Lord. Remember, it said just a few lines ago that in those days the word of the Lord was rare. Cruz, pick that up, please. Even if you haven't had a personal encounter with the Lord, if you're in the house of the Lord with the priest, you should be hearing about him frequently. Knowing him, knowing who he is, knowing about him. But it says Samuel did not know the Lord. The word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. A third time the Lord called, "Samuel!" And Samuel got up and went to Eli and he said, "Here I am, you called me." I like his obedient, immediate response.
Me too.
Me too.
But I do have one thing. Like I'm wondering even if he doesn't know the Lord, why he thinks people come to the temple.
Then Eli realized that the Lord was calling the boy. So at least Eli was able to realize that. And Eli told Samuel, "Go and lie down, and if he calls you, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went and lay down in his place. In his place. That's his place. His place is in the house of the Lord. That speaks again to, do you remember what Jesus said to Mary when he was 12? When he was 12 and they lost him, they couldn't find him, and she finally found him at the temple.
And he was ready.
Is that what it's called? Is that what the Jewish place is called? The temple?
Yes, I believe.
No disrespect intended. Just can't remember. What did he say to his mother? "Didn't you know that I would be
In my father's house.
in my father's house?"
But this isn't your father's house.
Samuel went down and lay in his place. That was his place. That was where he was supposed to be. And just like Jesus said, "This is where I'm supposed to be. Of course this is where I am." The Lord came and stood there, calling as at other times. The Lord came and stood there. That's interesting. "Samuel, Samuel," said the Lord. Then the Lord said, "Speak, for your servant is listening." And the Lord said to Samuel, "See, I am about to do something in Israel that will make the ears of everyone who hears about it tingle. At that time I will carry out against Eli everything I spoke against his family from beginning to end, for I told him that I would judge his family forever because of the sin he knew about. His sons blasphemed God, and he failed to restrain them," meaning he didn't discipline them. "Therefore I swore to the house of Eli, the guilt of Eli's house will never be atoned for by sacrifice or offering." Samuel lay down until morning and then opened the doors of the house of the Lord. He was afraid to tell Eli the vision. But Eli called him and said, "Samuel, my son." Samuel answered, "Here I am." "What was it he said to you?" Eli asked. "Do not hide it from me. May God deal with you, be it ever so severely, if you hide from me anything he told you. So Samuel told him everything, hiding nothing from him. Then Eli said, he is the Lord. Let him do what is good in his eyes. I'm thankful for Eli's submissive response. But I'm just wondering, he has a submissive response now, but before, I feel like he could have turned his heart back to the Lord, because he's a merciful God. He's a forgiving God. He could have turned his heart back. And he didn't, and I wonder why. But we saw those clues that Eli wasn't walking with the Lord, and now we see that it's true. Okay, what time is it? 10 minutes. I think we're going to stop there. We're on page. We're going to start again next time on 133.
Bye.